Hello and welcome to my bare bones basics tutorial on 4 Against Darkness. After character creation, which I have a separate video on, you jump right into a dungeon. You roll a d6 and you compare it to this chart for your entrance room. Now, normally you roll to see what's in the room, loot, traps, enemies, but on the entrance room you do not. Next, you pick one of the doors to exit out of and you roll a d66 and compare it to the chart. Now, how you roll a d66 is your first d6 is your tens digit, your second d6 is your ones digit, and then you compare it to the chart. Now, there are some helpful charts on BoardGameGeek.com, so you don't have to keep flipping through the book for this. After you roll up your room, you roll for contents to see what's in the room. If you roll up a monster, then you have to start combat. If you roll up a trap, you roll a d6 to see which type of trap it is and what you have to do against that trap. And now in this section, it will tell you exactly what the trap is and how to defend against it. Now, if it's monsters, we'll have to learn about combat. Now, combat in 4 Against Darkness is very simple. You look at the level of the monsters and then you roll a die, and essentially you're just trying to match the level. That's all it is. Now, of course, there's modifiers and other things to keep the game interesting and fun, but you roll a die, you meet their level, you deal a damage, or you kill one if they are vermin or minion. Now, if you double their level, you kill 2. If you triple their level, you kill 3, so on and so forth. Now, that's how you perform attacks against enemies. Now, defending is much in the same vein, except for you have to roll above their level. So, a level 4 orc attacks you, you roll a d6, you need to get 5 or higher, adding in your armor and shields and other bonuses, and you need to exceed their level to not take a damage. Now, if you do fail, you only take a single damage from the enemy. Once you reach 0 life points, of course, you die. Now, you may have noticed enemies do not roll, it's all done by the player character. Also, if you roll a 6, you have an exploding die, which means that you roll the d6 a second time and add it to the original number. Now, you keep doing this until you do not roll a 6, so you can get some pretty insane rolls. Conversely, if you roll a 1, you automatically fail. Now, not all interactions with monsters are violent. You can roll on a reaction chart to see what the monster wants or if they do something different. Or you can take the initiative and attack them. Now, if you do roll on the chart and then they roll something like fight or fight to the death, then they get the jump on you. Now, if the monsters surprise you, you do not have a choice, and the monsters will get to roll on the chart before you get to do anything. Now, spellcasting works very much the same way in that you roll your die, you compare it to the opponent's level, and in the description of the spell, it'll be more descriptive as to how it works. But with spells, once you cast them, you may not cast them again until the next adventure. Now, to combat this, you can take multiples of the same spell, so you have extra charges and can cast that spell multiple times inside a single dungeon or adventure. If monsters lose half their initial numbers, they will try to run away from combat to preserve themselves. Now, if they do run away, they essentially count as being killed in that they're no longer there. If they're a minion, you will gain a tick towards your 10 to roll an XP roll, which we will go over later. And you still gain their treasure as if you had killed them. Also, if you're fighting a boss, once they hit half their life points in max level, they will test to flee unless they are the final boss, but they also lose a level, so you can defend against them easier and hit them easier when you attack them as they're weakened. Now, it'll list under each encounter whether you get a treasure roll or not, and how many rolls and what modifiers you have. It's very simple. You roll the d6. If it's a +1, you roll a 3, it's a 4. If it's -1, you roll a 3, it's a 2, and it's that simple. You check the chart, match it to the number that you rolled, and that's it. Treasure roll done. Now, with XP rolls, whenever you beat a boss, you may roll for experience, or XP roll as it's known. If you roll above your character's level, they level up. When they level up, you add the amount of health points it tells you to add on their character entry. And if they're like a spellcaster, you gain the spell. Now that happens immediately. You gain those advantages right then, right there. After you beat 10 minion encounters, not individual minions, you get an XP roll, but at -1. Same thing though, you roll the die, you -1. If it's higher than your character's level, then you level up. After you successfully level up a character, you must go to another character to level up. You can't do it twice in a row. The only exception to this rule is if all your other characters are level 5, then you can keep leveling them up until they hit 5, which is the max in the base books. Now, in 4 Against the Abyss, you can go all the way up to level 9, and it adds d8s, which I'll do a separate video on. Some last things to remember are somebody has to carry a lantern. If your party does not have a lantern, you get a -2 on all attack and defense rolls. Your character has 2 hands, so no two-handed weapons and a shield. It just doesn't work. Now, you can carry more weapons and switch between them, but there are limits. Carrying 2 weapons does not have an advantage inside this base book. There's things later on that help with that inside some of the other books. Write in pencil, you're going to have to erase a lot. You need a character marching order. It matters for corridors and other things like that. Once you exit a dungeon, you can't go back into that same dungeon. Check a monster's reaction roll description before you just decide to attack them right out. Remember to check for the monster's morale roll when you kill half of them. Keep track of the monster's kills, as 10 minions give you a XP roll. Perform your XP rolls immediately once you hit them. Remember that bosses lose a level once they lose half their life. Assign treasures to characters that are actually carrying it. If there's any gold, remember to assign some to the party's dwarfs, because that's in their description. They are greedy. Scrolls may assign to any party member, but not barbarians. Barbarians fear magic. If a TPK happens, it's just a part of the game. I mean, just start a new party, go on. It's not a big deal. It happens to all of us. And there is clues as well. And make sure you're trying to get these clues, because you can get some powerful advantages from them. And that's all I have. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you'll tune in for some more. Thanks for watching.